I don't like defining spirituality. I think that that's a very personal thing. And it redefines and evolves continuously. I mean, sometimes it comes through work, through prayer, through just simple life. I'm a worker, so I've wanted to come here a long time, and I would have a different reaction than a certain person who would come, feel the beauty for themselves, pray, be very quiet, feel connection, very quiet connection. But I come and I want to take pictures, I want to sing, I want to, I feel life here. I don't feel even the burden of the world here. I feel happy. And I thought about this. I thought, how would Corbusier feel about me coming and just feeling happy and wanting to take pictures of trees instead of the chapel? I was taking pictures of trees. I think they would be fine with that, because what he wanted was for a sense of silence and joy and peace and communion. And you might think, what does all this have to do with spirituality? But what to me is more spiritual than being in tune with nature? That to me is the highest definition of spirituality. Loves and Rebels,
Yeah.
they're very similar. Did you ever hear the song, He's a Rebel? He's a rebel and he'll never be any good. It's a love song called He's a Rebel, very popular when I was a young girl. It always reminds me of my husband. So for me, love and rebellion are very closely linked. My love affair of France was very early, since a young girl. Ever since I was very young, I was drawn to French culture, whether it was poetry, architecture. As a little girl, from Joan of Arc to Juliet Greco, to Albertine Sarrazin, to Jean Genet, to Artaud, to Godard, to, on and on, Arthur Rimbaud and Verlaine and all of the poets, but the painters and Pasteur and Madame Curie. In 1969, very difficult to travel if you were poor. We had to get a plane to Iceland on a cargo plane. It took 13 hours. And then we had to wait to get a small plane to Luxembourg. And then we had to wait, and then we got a train to Paris. And in 1969, we were in the third-class carriage, and people had chickens on the train. And I remember very surprised to see chickens in bags, and then they would pop their head out, and people were in the train with chickens. And so we didn't have any hotel. We didn't know where to go. And we wound up in Montmartre in a very cheap hotel, very, very cheap. And we noticed in the day it was all men, and in the night only women left the hotel. And they were not the most beautiful women, but very dressed up. And after 2 days we realized the men and women were the same person. But it was a wonderful, wonderful trip. We lived on the streets, we sang in the streets, and I saw I went to visit everyone that I loved. I was visiting Brancusi's grave, and I was visiting Baudelaire's and Nerval's, and Pompidou Center was not there. at the time, you could go to where Piaf lived, and you could go to where Gerard de Nerval was born, and where he took his life, and in the Arab section, and it was wonderful. And I remember we sang and tried to make money to eat between the Dome and the Coupole. And one day, Leslie Caron, the actress, went by and gave us, in 1969, a 20-franc note, which was a lot of money then. And she smiled at us, and we were like, it's Gigi. Gigi has given us 20 francs. I never met her, but I always remembered that. I had a strong religious education. I learned to read very early. When I was 3, I was already reading. So at 5, I went to Bible school to learn to read the Bible. And then I became a Jehovah's Witness, which is a very strict religion, but very Bible-based. So every day I had to go and read the Bible and discuss the Bible. And when I was 12, I disagreed too much with their interpretations, though it's a nice religion, but so I left and I tried a few others. I was Tibetan Buddhist for a while. I tried to be Jewish, but they said, no, you can't just be Jewish. You can't. I went to a synagogue and said, I think I'll be Jewish. And they said, no. You can't just walk in a synagogue and say. I went to the Catholic Church, but the nun kept hitting me with a ruler because I didn't know when to stand up and kneel. And so I just decided by 13, I don't need a religion. I'll just pray. So I haven't had a religion since, but I go to churches everywhere I go. I love churches because they're I find man's interpretation of a place of contemplation and prayer always interesting. And that's why I came such a long way just to be here. I'm not on tour or anything. I just wanted to see it. I just wanted, I saw pictures of it in a book. It was so beautiful, I had to come. I like to play in churches for a few reasons. First, they're made for speaking, and the acoustics are very beautiful in churches. But the best reason is because churches are where people often invest their most confessional sense, their most joyful sense, their saddest sense. They pray, they feel, daydream, maybe fall asleep. But so much of the human consciousness is in the air of churches. I don't think about religion when I'm in a church. I think about the human consciousness in active prayer, vision, the vision of the architect. So all of these vibrations or particles, energies, are very inspiring to me as a singer and performer. But I also try to be respectful in churches. I don't think to go into church to form an act of rebellion. If I was making a statement, I would, but I don't need at this time in my life to make statements in churches. So if it's a Catholic church or a certain kind of church, I won't sing Gloria. I won't sing songs that, might be hurtful to the parishioners. I'm not interested. I'm interested in having a good sense of community. For me, punk is nothing but a word for freedom. And I think people that try to define how I act as supposed punk rocker, I mean, I never called myself a punk rocker, But for me, when I was there as punk was evolving, and at CBGB's, with other musicians, with television, with Ramones, all of these people, with The Clash, they were all my friends. And punk meant nothing more than freedom, than what the Stooges had done, what MC5 had done, what Mozart had done, what Rimbaud had done. And when people start saying, oh, well, you can't be married and children and be a punk, oh, you can't go in a church, I say, you're defining. And to me, once you start making barriers and rules, you've lost the whole idea. Because for me, as an artist, the only rule is to do good work. That's all. You know, if it's offensive, or people don't like it, or it doesn't conform to their idea of an artist, you know, I just say, fuck you, you know, excuse me, sorry. I just am trying to do my work. For instance, when I got married and had children, people really criticized me. They thought that I was betraying the women's movement, betraying punk rock. I would say, you people are crazy. I don't define myself as anything. I got married because I loved my husband. I have children and I love my children. They don't keep me from being an artist. I'm the same person. They have only magnified my consciousness. Having children and having a man like my late husband in my life only helped my consciousness grow and create better work. I have to find the strength not to create because it can drive me crazy. I hadn't slept for 3 days before I got here thinking about it. And last night I slept for like 9 hours, finally. I have a mix of, yes, I do as I wish. I mean, I feel that I'm a free person, but I respect freedom. I'm not an anarchist. I am a free person in terms of my responsibility to my family and to my work and to my physical body. And so I'm very disciplined in the foods that I eat. Through my life, I have never really had vices, except for coffee. I never had a drug problem, drinking problem. I don't smoke. I don't, because I have to take care of myself. I was a very sickly child. I was sick all the time. I had every possible scarlet fever, measles, and mumps, and tuberculosis, and so many illnesses. By the time I was 20, I understood I had to be careful in life if I wanted to live and do my work. So in one way, I'm very disciplined, and I have a good work ethic, which I developed also with Robert Mapplethorpe because he had a very strong work ethic. He worked every day, maybe just doing a few photographs, maybe drawing all day, working on an installation. Every day he worked. And I also work every day, sometimes just for pleasure. Sometimes I'll write and no one will ever see it, but I'm in the act of writing. And today I took some pictures really for souvenirs for myself. But that's what I do, I work. You know, I was born a worker. I think that all people have the ability to channel things, they just channel different things. We're all in tune. Performers tend to be almost shamanistic in their tuning of people because it's necessary. When you're on stage, you have to feel the people. You have to feel what their needs are, what their hopes are, how to energize them. And so you get very good at being in tune with people. And then, being a mother, you get even more in tune because you're always in tune with your children. So I don't think it's special to artists. I just think that everyone has their own way of feeling things. Some people feel the weather. Some people feel a sense of the angels, commune with angels. You know, Corbusier, he looked at a crab shell, the top of a crab shell. Other people would say, oh, this is ugly, or oh, there's no crab in it, or oh, it's pretty. He saw the roof of this, of his chapel. So it's, you know, being channeling or being in tune is unique to each person, I think. I want to say one other thing. I'm just telling you my opinion. It doesn't mean I know anything special. If you disagree, you may be right. Writing is, I have written since I was maybe 6 years old. When I was a little girl, that's all I wanted to be, was a writer. I wanted to write books like Pinocchio and Peter Pan, something great. I wanted to write a book when I was a little girl that people would read to the end of time. And that's my greatest goal. I love to sing for the people, and I take photographs, but I wouldn't consider myself a great photographer, but I have an eye. I do a lot of things, but writing to me defines myself for myself. I can't go without writing. When I go into the bathroom, I usually take a piece of paper and a pencil in case I'll be there a long time. I have to, I'm always writing. You know, I'm always, when I was taking these pictures, my mind was writing. And I really felt like I should stop and write, because I started writing in my head a little story about Le Corbusier, and it was distracting me taking pictures. But it's the thing that mostly is in my head, is writing.
Couldn't define spirituality, but we feel when we listen to you that spirituality is in everyday life, in your song, in your books. When you read Mr. Twain, it's like a meditation. You also wrote for Shugam Trungpa Rinpoche, so you are also close to the Buddhist teachings. Is it for you right when people say that you are a kind of mystic person, but very, very profoundly mystic?
I don't know. I mean, once, when I was very young, William Burroughs told me I was shamanistic. I had to look it up in the dictionary. I wasn't quite sure what shamanistic was. These are words that help people define states of being. But I think in the end, words or not words, it's a natural state of being. I mean, you think of like some of the most honored saints, like the Little Flower, Saint Teresa, or Saint Francis. Simplicity was part of their beauty, in tune with nature. Simplicity has its beauty. You know, a farmer, you know, you look at farmers in the old way. My husband's grandparents were farmers. They were farmers till they were almost 100 years old, still digging up potatoes. And that, to me, they seemed like the most spiritual people. They were simple. They lived in a little shack, and they made their own potatoes and corn. And they never tried to destroy nature, just take and give back. And you think of a great sculptor like Brancusi. What was he seeking? More than anything, simplicity. It took Brancusi a whole lifetime to create an egg, which a chicken makes every day. Even the chickens in the train going from Luxembourg to Paris in 1969. Just this simple egg. And Brancusi saw in this simple egg, created by nature, by God, as being the perfect shape. When Giotto there was a big competition to, I think, to do, was it St. Petersburg, or in any event, to do in a very important dome. All of the architects were sending big plans, giant drawings, all kinds of writings to try to get the commission to make this dome. Giotto took a piece of paper, and he had such a steady, perfect hand. He made this perfect circle without any instrument, a perfect circle. And he said, okay, that's my audition. That is what I send. Everyone's saying, Giotto, you can't just send that. He said, trust me, it'll be enough. And he got the job because it was perfect. Simple and perfect. And in simplicity is perfection. And that is probably the easiest and also the most challenging way to greet your God.
Merci beaucoup, Patti. Merci. Thank you very much.
I don't need a religion. I'll just pray.